Alright, welcome to what is most certainly going to be the most unique, yeah, sorry about that, Phoenix, unique Let's Plays on this channel. I've been wanting to get around to this series for quite a while, but never really, I don't know, I never felt confident that I'd be able to fully do one of these games, let alone, you know, all three of them that are on the WiiWare. So this is the first case of the game, and, you know, the series overall, obviously. This is essentially your freebie case, because you see the dead body there. So, the reason this is a freebie is that they show you who did it immediately. You know what the guy looks like, you don't know his name, but you know he did it. And now he's going to try and pin it on someone else. But we know he did it. That's the important part. So obviously now we're going to get introduced to all of the characters. We are, of course, playing as Phoenix Wright. And here we have our boss, Mia Fey. The first case of every game is usually going to be, in some form or another, your first court case. You know, the first game you play as Phoenix, it's his first ever court case. The second game, they kind of do something a little weird with it, but it's still technically your first court case. The third game you play as a different character in the first case, same with the fourth game. It just essentially helps you do the tutorial of the game, you know, in each subsequent game. Because if you played as Phoenix in the second game to begin with, well, you'll see. But if it was Phoenix normally, he would know what he's doing, and no one would have to tell him anything. Now we're going to get introduced to another character, probably one of my least favorite in the entire series, just because of how unhelpful he becomes in other games. This is Larry Butts, one of Phoenix's childhood friends. One of two, I would assume. We only ever see him have two friends as a kid. So this is the first time I've actually ever played this game on the Wii, because all the first three games, which is commonly referred to as the Phoenix Wright trilogy, were released on the Wii. I've played all of these games on the DS and the 3DS, but I've never played them on the Wii. Also, I should point out these were originally Game Boy games, and then they were eventually put on the DS. I've never played them on the Game Boy, but, you know, I still think that the DS is probably the best way to go in terms of playing these games. But for Let's Playing this was certainly very convenient, because it was either this or get a 3DS capture card. And I do want one of those eventually, but for right now, this is good enough. And yeah, you know, I'm not gonna read what's going on screen, because I have every faith that you can read. So if you need to, you could pause and read this stuff. But I think you know, you should be able to read it good enough. So here is the prosecution right now. It's a man by the name of Winston Payne. He will always be the first prosecutor that you face in a game, because he's not good at his job. So essentially, you just always face off against him first, because he's, you know, again, the first case is a freebie case. And here's the judge. We never find out anything more about this guy other than his name is Judge, apparently. We know he has a brother. We don't know his brother's name, I don't think, but it's just Judge. So one of the best things about this game, and you are hearing it right now, is, of course, the soundtrack. The soundtrack to all of these games are so phenomenal. And, you know, looking at it, they have to be really good. Because there's no dialogue in this game. Well, I mean, there's dialogue, but it's not spoken. You know, the only voice acting you're going to get is from Phoenix or the prosecution saying, "Objection, hold it, take that!" So that's essentially the only voice acting you're going to get. But here we're going to get introduced to the court record, which is very useful, especially for pointing out contradictions, which we'll get to later. They've listed in the court record, so what we want to do is press the plus button. Now again, this was the first time I've ever played, when I was recording this is the first time I've ever played this on the Wii, so I didn't quite know. So here we can pause and look at the court record. We have evidence and we have profiles. What we want to look at is the profiles. We have Cindy Stone here, that is the name of the victim. And that is, of course, who we want to select. I couldn't figure out how to close this. Not Cinder Block or Mia Fey, it is Cindy Stone. Now this we can find by looking at, of course, the autopsy report. Cause of death, loss of blood due to blunt force trauma. So she was struck once by a blunt object. Again, this is all your tutorial stuff. This is one huge freebie of a case. But yeah, back to the music. The music kind of needs to be good in these games because it's really the only thing you're hearing. These games are good because they've got funny, interesting court cases, but that might not be enough to get your interest, you know, so you need something really good to listen to. And in terms of music, the Ace Attorney games have some of the best soundtracks. I own all of them because they're really great to just listen to in the car, and also they've got really cool like cover art. Especially the collection that's the first 3 games, those have really great. But yeah, that statue is going to be very important, which is why I was showing it like that. So this is unusual, this won't happen all the time, because they are calling the defendant up to the stand to testify. Now, when the text is blue and it's in those parentheses, it's usually supposed to insinuate that the character is thinking that. But sometimes, again, this is because there's no voice acting, it's hard to tell. Is the character thinking it out loud, or is the character thinking it to himself? Like, is he going, oh, didn't they all die? Or was he thinking that? So it's difficult sometimes to judge what Phoenix is saying and how he's saying it. A big part of this game is, you know, gathering and getting evidence, and then finding a spot in the trial to use it, which is really fun to do, especially when you actually figure things out yourself. I never like to use guides in a game like this because it just defeats the purpose for me. So why am I doing this? I don't know. So I like to figure this stuff out myself. You know, because I don't think there's anything more satisfying than figuring out, like, oh, wait, I know what happened. And then, you know, you put this there, and then you just present that, and then you do this. It's just a great feeling. So you could do one of two things here. It really doesn't matter. You're going to get the same outcome. And yeah, the English localization of this, I think, puts more weird names and like weird out-of-place references in the localization, which I don't really mind. But because, you know, 95% of these games are really well done in the localization, but that other 5% is just like, this character's name's Larry Butts. You know, there's so many characters that just have like pun names, such as the next person we're gonna see. So Larry is a very, very difficult person to have testify. Again, you can do whatever you want there. I like to just put, you know, have him answer honestly, because that's just the kind of person we are. And again, that's another thing I don't quite understand because there's no voice acting. Was he motioning with his body? Is that why that was funny? Like, he moved his body 3 different ways to go, like, you know, just tell the truth. Or was he actually saying, whispering to him, like, tell the truth? That was also weird because the defendant just testified. Someone just testified on the stand, and we didn't cross-examine them at all. So, Mr. Frank saw it. I have to say, unfortunately, it took me a while to realize what his name was. Like, why his name was funny. Because if you look at every single character, like a witness and, you know, someone you're going to meet in the game, their name is most likely 9 times out of 10 going to be a pun. And when I'm reading it, I'm not, like, you know, I'm not saying it aloud and no one else is saying it aloud. So, I wasn't thinking his name was Frank Saw It. Like, saw it. Like, he was the witness. Well, we know he's a murderer, but he's supposedly a witness, so his name is Saw It. Frank Saw It. This song right here is the song that happens when a witness is giving testimony or when Phoenix is cross-examining them. Every game, this song is different. This is definitely one of the better ones. I'm not going to say it's my favorite. It's definitely the most classic. This game has some of the best music, but it's maybe not my favorite soundtrack. So Phoenix thinks that that guy's testimony is fairly solid. However, I think he might be wrong. So we should get a bit of new info for the court record here. Yep, there we go. Record of the blackout for your perusal. So we're going to take a look at this right now. We saw that it was from noon, so maybe we'll be able to use that, who knows. And that is essentially why the localization named him Wright in the English version, because his name is not Phoenix Wright in Japanese. They named him Phoenix Wright because they can have puns like right, or you're wrong, right? Stuff like that. Mia is probably one of my favorite characters in the series. Phoenix is definitely up there. He's definitely my favorite character just because you spend the most time with him. But Mia is a really great character, especially once we get to know her more. She seems kind of a little standoffish in this and kind of looking down on us, but she's not usually like that. So we're going to begin our first cross-examination ever. Now, the way I like to do these is press every single issue. At least this is how I like to do most of these. If you can't find a contradiction immediately when he's first saying his, his testimony, then you can present your evidence and you can see if that works out for you. But I mainly like to press every single issue for multiple reasons, because it'll get you more information. The information, even if it's not useful, it's at least entertaining, and it fleshes out these characters more. And sometimes, if you press an issue, you will get testimony added to the court record, which will then probably be what you need to present evidence at. So, as I've played this game before, I know what to press and what not to press, but just for this first example, I'm going to press everything until I get to the one that I can present on. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do this game, because this is going to be a really long game, and I don't know if I want to make it quick, or if I want to make it in-depth. If I want to make it in-depth, during every single court proceeding, I'm going to press everything, and if I just want to make it quick, I'm just going to go immediately to the thing that I'm supposed to do. And I don't know, I'm kind of leaning towards I want to flesh it out, and I want to be able to, have all these characters say their things, so I think I'm going to press everything usually, like I do anyway if I'm playing this game for the first time. Yeah, we don't have any evidence that he didn't touch anything, or that he did or didn't touch anything, so can't really do anything there. So we're almost at the point in which we can present something, because his contradiction is pretty big and it's pretty noticeable. By the way, the person you hear saying hold it and stuff like that is the voice of Phoenix Wright, who is voiced by one of the people who localized the game. His name's Ben Judd. He will do it pretty much up until Dual Destinies, or Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. I forget which one came out first. So here we go. I remember the time exactly. It was 1 p.m. So what we want to do is take a look at the court record. This I kind of like about the Wii version. But you can see here she died between 4 and 5. The blackout report was from noon to 6. So something's not quite right there. We're going to want to present the autopsy report. Objection! So what I did there was I swung the Wii remote out in front of me like I was holding it, like how Phoenix points his finger. And that is how you can present things in this game. Also, this is one of the best songs in the game. But this is one of the manners in which the DS version works better, because you can hold down the Y button on the DS, and you can shout "hold it," and Phoenix will say "hold it," and that's a manner in which the DS version kind of has a little bit of an edge. An Edgeworth, if you will. So we found a major contradiction that is going to force him to revise his testimony. It's circumstantial at this point. We can't get him on that because, he just... Oh, oops, I messed up the time. Point out all contradictions. Yeah, lies always beget more lies. That is very true, because every single witness you will ever talk to in these games is lying. Be it subconscious or not.